Welcome back to State of the Union. As President Trump ramped up his crackdown on immigration, he made this claim on Truth Social. Quote, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments and houses, hoping against hope that they will be left alone. Well, joining me now is the senior senator from the great state of Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar. Let's start with that.
Thanks, Anna.
Does Minnesota have a problem with gangs roving the streets?
Every state has a problem with crime, but what the president has done here is taken a horrific crime that occurred in Washington, D.C., where one beloved Guard member is still struggling for his life, another was shot and killed, and the perpetrator, the murderer, is behind bars and being prosecuted. He took that case and then he went 2,400 miles away to Somalia and somehow indicted an entire group of people, 80,000 of them in my state, as well as later all naturalized citizens, 24 million people in the United States of America. This is what he does, and he tries to stoke division and make people hate each other. And here are the facts. In the state of Minnesota, you have a state, which he also condemned our entire state, is in the top 5 for Fortune 500 companies per capita in the country. It is a state with one of the best rates for unemployment, which of course we've been battered by the Trump tariffs and the like. But in fact, we have a strong economy in our state, and our state has a good healthcare system, which we're also struggling with because Donald Trump won't do anything to help the people of this country. And then he decided to blame the Somalian population, 80,000 of which, by the way, work in our schools, work in our airports, help take care of our seniors, and are the vast majority of which are citizens of the United States of America. That's what he did.
I do, before we move on, want to give you a chance to respond to something else that the president said. He said that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar probably came to the U.S. illegally, mocked the hijab that she wears, and he called your governor, quote, retarded.
These words shouldn't even be repeated by anyone, much less a president of the United States. Again, he goes after people because they look different than him. He goes after our governor and uses a slur that, by the way, has now led a legislator in Indiana who has a kid with disabilities to say that he's not going to vote with him on the redistricting vote in Indiana. These are the kinds of things he does. And they try to tear people apart, but as we saw from the midterm elections, it's not working. People look at their grocery bills, they know who to blame. They don't want to see the chaos. They don't want to see the corruption. They mourn for the loss of this National Guard member, but they do not believe you should use it to turn away 24 million people who are already in this country, who are naturalized citizens.
I do want to turn to specifically the vetting process for the 190,000 or so Afghans who were resettled in America after the military withdrawal. You have been very focused on this issue. Just in August, you co-sponsored, along with another number of Republicans, the Fulfilling Promises to Afghan Allies Act. It would offer legal status for Afghans who were wartime allies, also enhancing how they were vetted. So my question is, if you are calling for enhanced vetting, does that mean President Trump has a point that there wasn't enough vetting?
Thanks for bringing up that bill, Dana, because I do think it's one of the solutions here. So the Afghans that came here, so many of them, and we know this, helped our troops, were translators for our troops, stood and saved their lives. And there are many of our veterans who feel very strongly about this. The bill is strongly supported by the American Legion, the VFW, many veterans groups. And very conservative Republicans have supported versions of the bill in the past, including Senator Mullen was on a similar bill. Senator Lindsey Graham is on this bill. And we believe you need the widespread across the board vetting. And then that temporary status, as we've done with our Hmong allies in the past and our allies that helped us during the Vietnam War, can have a permanent status. But the across the board vetting, which involves in-person interviews, gold standard, using biometrics. But also, when you do it with the group of people that came over, you can collect more information. That's why I hope this will actually be an impetus to pass our bill and put the resources into it that we need to do the vetting across the board. But what the president's been talking about, he says different things different days, is taking 24 million naturalized citizens and looking at all of them, or just deporting people with legal temporary status who are Somalians, which he said last week. So this is very different. This would be a very meticulous, detailed, across the board vetting of the people that came in.
Senator, before I let you go, in order to reopen the government last month, I guess maybe it was still this month, Democrats got a promise for a Senate vote to extend Obamacare premiums. Is that vote going to happen, and will that actually pass?
That vote will happen, and whether it will pass is in the hands of Donald Trump and the Republicans. People are seeing their health insurance premiums double or triple. We have a chance to do something. December 15th is a day, and then they're going to be doubled or tripled for next year if this doesn't pass. Either we're going to pass this by forcing this vote, or we are going to get this on legislation, or we are going to march into the midterms and beat them despite their resistance. If they don't want to do anything about people's costs and their grocery bills and their health care and pummel them with these punishing Trump tariffs, then we will simply have to beat them in the midterms. We have no other choice. But I am hoping our Republican colleagues, President Trump seemed open to this last week, and now he seems to have put it on hold, will join us in voting to help people to afford their health insurance.
All right, Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Dana. It was great to be on.
And up next, why President Trump's Weekend Truth social